Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Highly Unsolicited Book Reviews for Invested Spouses. My name is Jessica.
My name is Mark.
And today we are going to be talking about...
We're going to be looking at the book series Ruinous Love, books 1 and 2. And the first book in the series is Butcher and Blackbird.
What's the author's name?
Bryn Weaver is the author. Bryn Weaver with Lucy Rivers is the narrator. Joe Arden,
Is the narrator.
Is the narrator as well.
Yeah, because I read the ebook and I also listened to the audiobook. So the version that you're looking at right now.
But it's written by Bryn Weaver.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I should point out that my wife is a sweet, empathetic, caring, wonderful person who just soaks up true crime like there's no tomorrow. I mean, there was a point where I was like she was really into books, but then she got really into true crime, and she's like, "You should watch this with me." And I'm like,
I also got really into Hannibal, the TV show.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a lot of fan fiction for Hannibal, and it's good stuff. If that's your cup of tea,
Hannibal and Will are life.
Yeah, exactly. Power couple. But we're delving dangerously far away from the point. Sticking back with the book, Butcher and Blackbird is a fiction romance adventure. It's like a medium-paced dark romance. Would you say?
It's a dark romantic comedy.
So it's actually a comedy.
Yeah, there's some... I laughed out loud multiple times, which I haven't really done before with dark romances, so it was refreshing.
All right, okay. So it's got a little bit of game to it.
Yeah, I will say, though, there is a laundry list of trigger warnings, but actually what got me to read this book was the dedication, and I'm just pulling it up right now. Like I said, there's a long list of content and trigger warnings, but here, I'll actually read those first. So, oh my goodness. So as much as Butcher and Blackbird is a dark comedy and will hopefully make you laugh through the madness, it is still dark. Please read responsibly. If you have any questions about this list, please don't hesitate to contact the author, and she leaves her information. So the trigger warnings are eyeballs and sockets.
Sorry. No, hold on. Eyeballs and sockets.
And eye sockets. And eyeballs and eye sockets.
That's a trigger warning.
Yes.
Oh, I don't even want to know. Okay, go on.
Amateur surgery.
Okay.
Skin ornaments.
What? Okay.
Chainsaws, axes, knives, scalpels.
Okay, so
a lot of sharp objects.
So we're in scary movie territory. This is okay, classic horror stuff.
Accidental cannibalism.
Accidental?
Not so accidental cannibalism.
Okay, here we go.
Questionable uses of a mummified corpse. Lobotomized manservant. Ill-advised use of kitchen implements. I'm sorry about the cookies and cream ice cream, and then in brackets, I'm not really.
Jesus.
Detailed sex scenes, which includes but are not limited to cock warming, rough sex, praise kink, anal, adult toys, choking, spitting, dom sub, interactions, genital piercings.
Jess, what? Okay.
References to parental neglect and child abuse.
Okay. Right.
Parental loss, not depicted. References to child sexual assault, not in detail. It is a book about serial killers, so there is some generally messed up murder and chaos. So those are the trigger warnings. And then the dedication said, for those of you who read the trigger warnings and said accidental cannibalism, count me in. This one's for you.
I'll admit when you said that I was like, I kind of feel like I need to know more about that.
The accidental cannibalism.
Yeah.
It was like I said, I watched Hannibal, so I felt like I was kind
You
of
were
primed for this.
Primed. Did you just say primed?
I did say primed. I meant to say primed.
I was primed and proper for watching Cannibal.
I was primed for this.
Well, I just said watching Cannibal, so we're both just like, it's, listener, normally we've been recording this at like 10:30 at night, so we have some excuse. It's 4:45. Our daughter's down for a nap, and we're like, yeah, well, we're awake. Let's do. No, we're just always.
We're parents
living in soup.
Anyway, so yeah, it's a dark romantic comedy. It had me laughing out loud on numerous occasions. It had me looking at food, specifically orzo pasta, in a bit of a different way. Not in a great way.
I'm staring at you my eyes are very concerned right now.
Yeah. So
wow.
But it's basically about these two serial killers who meet kind of accidentally, but they know each other's works. Mm-hmm. And they kind of,
I'm a fan, I have to say. Your display and
well, not exactly. They're aware of each other, and they kind of are like, it was nice to meet you. We should kind of, meet again.
They met at the weekly SKA meetings.
Well, not exactly.
Like Serial Killers Anonymous.
They basically form a once a year event where they both go after the same person and kill them.
There is I was joking about the SKA, but it actually is.
Kinda, yeah.
Oh my God, fantastic.
Yeah, and so it's really good. It takes place over a couple years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, because when I heard dark romantic comedy, I was like, how can that be? But it was funny. I laughed. I really enjoyed the story. Again, it is a much darker book. So if those trigger warnings, you heard them and you're like, whoop, not for me, totally fine. Totally respect that. But I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Okay, well, let's do this then, because we have a loose structure to this podcast. You've given your initial opinions on it. Now, you did not give this one a review, so we'll save your review out of 5 stars till the end. But I'm gonna read a brief description from Storygraph, not written by Jess. This is what's provided on the website, to give us a summary of kind of the plot as it's described to the general audience, and then we'll dive a little deeper into the actual plot with Jess. So this seems to be, obviously, it's a serial killer romance. There's an unlikely meeting between two rival serial killers, Sloane and Rowan. They build a friendship. They're in a small town, West Virginia. One of them's from small town West Virginia, and the other one is from Boston or rural Texas. Oh, no. Wow, this is really confusing description. Sorry. They're just traveling around the U.S., just hunting people, which, as you do, I mean, listen, if you watch Hannibal, then you're really primed for this kind of a story. Their friendship develops into something more, but they get pretty much caught up in a bunch of drama being together, and then some very uncomfortable things with pasta.
So I actually took a look at my Goodreads, because I'm like, I'm sure I reviewed it. I know you're looking at Storygraph. I reviewed it on Goodreads, so I gave it 5 stars.
Really?
And I actually wrote a review, which I don't usually do. So I said, my kind of dark comedy. Everything about this book worked for me, and I loved every page. I couldn't put it down. Would happily read again, which I did. And can't wait for the next one, which I read pretty much as soon as it came out.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, a glowing review. If you are a fan of true crime, and you want something a little more lighthearted that still takes those elements, I guess this would be a good option.
Yeah, totally. Or if you liked that kind of like Hannibal type of what is the word? It starts with an M, macabre.
Yeah, like a macabre story.
Yeah.
Goosebumps-esque.
Yeah, it's great. I really liked it. And so the first time I read the ebook version, and then I heard from many people that the audiobook was really great. So when the second book came out, I I got the audiobook and listened to it, and it does I believe it's called a tandem duet read. So it's two narrators that work at the same time. So the female narrator reads the female parts as well as the female
I really like it when audiobooks do that.
backgrounds. Yeah, so when it's in the female's point of view, she does the female voices as well as the female mindset.
Different narrators
yes.
for the different perspectives of the people.
Exactly. And then the male voice actor does the male voice. And it was really great because the chemistry even between the two worked really well. Like the voices worked really well together, and their laughs were, genuine when it came up. It was really good. I haven't really read it's not a dramatic reading. I know those are different too. I just, I usually prefer one narrators for books, and this was my first experience reading two, and I really, really enjoyed it. And it was good for the second book as well, because I ended up listening to the audiobook of the second book.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I have to admit I haven't listened to a ton of audiobooks, but I always found that sometimes you almost feel like they're done almost with like AI, or the people are just like super monotone, and it really, it's like well, I might as well be listening to a biography. You know what I mean?
Oh well, yeah. Every narrator has a different spin. Julia Whalen is probably one of my favorites. She's a very talented voice actress, and I love her almost every single one of her books. But I did read one that had multiple voices. It was The Paris Apartment, I believe. That one was a good book, but because there were so many voices, I found it actually took me out of the audiobook a little bit. And after reading or listening to that audiobook, I was a little bit leery of listening to a multicast audiobook again. Not that the book was bad, or even that the audiobook was bad. It wasn't, or it
just didn't vibe.
Exactly. So, but this one was done really well, and same with the second book.
Awesome. So, okay, because we've talked a little bit in general about the plot, but spoilers, we're going to talk a little bit more about the plot. How do they actually get together and interact?
So the book starts off with she went to murder somebody, and in a series of unfortunate events, she ends up killing him, but accidentally locking herself in his cage. Hey. So his decaying body is just inches away, but she can't reach him to find the key, and
Don't
it's
you
been
just
days.
hate it when that happens?
Yeah.
Ugh,
and so
Mondays,
the whole orzo pasta thing is she basically maggots start growing on the body, and they start crawling towards her, and she thinks of them as little orzo pastas.
Ew, why would you even know? We didn't need to bring that up. We really no. Oh God, sorry listener, I'm sorry. I guess trigger warnings. There are trigger warnings for this book, but
yeah. So if this bothers you, probably not a book for you to pick up. But anyways, so he ends up, the main guy ends up coming and getting her out of there. And
was he also on his way to murder this person?
Yes, actually. So that's kind of how they meet each other. And so they go out for ribs, I'm pretty sure, and they're talking, and they're like, yeah, this was kind of interesting, we should maybe do it again sometime, but not with the whole orzo pasta thing.
We can stop talking about that at any time. I'm good to stop talking about that.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay, so they meet up, and then is it really just a story about them murdering people as a couple, and that's just kind of it?
Kind of. So they do form a friendship between the two of them. She has a bit of a dark backstory, and so does he. So their backstories come to light. He is now a chef. He owns his own restaurants. And she is in some kind of sales where she has to travel and
well, no wonder she's killing people.
So she has to pitch her product or something. I actually can't remember what she does off the top of my head, but she does a bit of travel. And Mark, I don't remember what I was saying.
All right. Well, we're just going to pick up here. Unfortunately, we had to adjust the microphone and then we both lost our train of thought. But to get back on track, we were talking about how he has a bunch of restaurants. She's in sales and she ends up having to travel around for work. But so they are together. They're friends and they're meeting up and murdering people.
Kind of, yeah, once a year. So I think the first year, like, they exchange phone numbers and they text periodically. And then after the first kill together, they form a relationship and she goes to visit him in Boston unannounced, and he ends up like having a reserved table for her at his restaurant. And it's very clear that he's completely smitten with her, and because of her past, she is leery to kind of let him in and isn't really ready to form a relationship. But as the time goes on, their relationship develops, and by the end they are together.
Cool.
Yeah, with
Nice.
some other twists and some
Mm-hmm. So what's the accidental cannibalism, Abba? Spoilers for this, 'cause I need to know.
So in one of the kills that they've set up, they get invited to dinner from the murderer, and he is a cannibal, so he invites them over for food. And so
Sorry, just gonna interject here. There's another serial killer.
No, so they kill serial killers.
Oh, I thought they were just killing random people.
No,
They're killing
no.
other serial killers.
They kill other serial killers.
Oh, so they're like Dexter.
Kind of.
So this is a Dexter meets Hannibal, but also it's a power couple.
Sorta, yeah.
Cool. All right, this actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought they were just killing random people.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, they're killing other killers.
Right. Okay, so that makes it like vigilantism and yada yada. Okay, gotcha.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, so they go to this other serial killer's place. That dude's a cannibal.
Yes.
They
And
know
so
he's a cannibal?
So the girl does. I can't remember her name
Uh-huh.
right off the top of my head, but the guy doesn't. So the accidental cannibalism, he accidentally eats the food not knowing that it's human.
And she's like, haha.
And then the intentional cannibalism is a little bit gross. So if you don't want me to do it, it's about the cookies and cream ice cream.
Yeah, we're not going to worry about that. But you know what? Listener, I mean, if you are interested, you're more than welcome to read book 1 of this series. But I do think we should move on. We've covered pretty well book 1, I think. Book 2, same kind of vibe, but I think other characters.
Yep. So the main male character in the previous book, he has 2 other brothers. So this book is the elder brother of the main male character from the previous book, and the female main character is best friend.
Oh wow! So they're really just keeping it in the family.
In this one, yeah.
Okay, all right. And so the guy's name is Lachlan. The girl's name is Lark. L and L. Okay, so we're gonna do the brief description here. Lachlan wants to work in his leather studio, but he's a contract killer, and he wants to forget his traumatic past that turned him into a deadly weapon, but he has a debt he has to pay. And so his boss tells him that he can pay his debt if he marries this woman, Lark, the daughter of a valued business partner, but they hate each other. So this is an enemies to lovers?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And again, there is a huge trigger warning list for Leather and Lark as well. Right. I won't go into it too much because if you read the first books, if you're still here after listening to the first book's trigger warnings, you're probably going to be here for the second.
And I just want to point out, Lark is an indie singer-songwriter that grew up from a rich family with a privileged life. That's what it would seem like, but yeah. So she's basically like kind of had a lot provided for her, but now is navigating being an adult, I guess.
Yeah, and she kills people too.
Oh, okay. So she's also Also
Yeah.
a serial killer.
And I actually didn't know that going into the book. I knew who she was, that she was this like bubbly friend of the main character from the previous book. So I just assumed that, you know, contract killer and bubbly best friend, kind of like a grumpy sunshine situation, which it kind of is. I did not expect her to also be a killer. That actually kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't expect that. And it gives us a little bit more background from the first book as to why the main character kind of went down the path that she did. The only difference is that, oh my gosh, what is the main character from the first book? Can you please look at the other page and tell me? Sloane. Yes. So Sloane is very open with Lark about her killings and her darker urges, but Lark feels the need to keep them to herself.
Right.
And when she ends up marrying Lachlan, it is for the sake of her family, basically.
Okay.
And like to save Sloane and her husband, because they're kind of being threatened by her parents. Technically her parents are in some kind of dark business. I honestly wasn't expecting that plot line. It kind of threw me. I was really expecting that she was kind of quote unquote normal, like not into the killing thing, but her whole family was involved in it, and her family sells muffins or something. So I was not expecting. What? Yeah,
just what a random. I thought you were gonna say they sell like Coke or there's like.
They sell muffins, and then they use the muffin sales as like a.
Oh, they're laundering money.
They're laundering money, yeah.
All right,
and they do some illegal stuff in the background.
All the things you're gonna launder money through a muffin business, that's crazy, because you don't know. That you could be selling 1 million muffins, or you could be selling 10 muffins, but nobody would know.
I think that she actually was like the company was famous for their muffins, but regardless, there was just this aspect of it that I just was not expecting going into it. Like I from what I knew about the previous book, I didn't anticipate her background story that much. So that was kind of interesting going into it.
So it's like, okay, so like you said, it's like you've got like the grumpy character and then the bubbly character, and then they're together, but they hate each other, and that's already a trope. So it's like the enemies to lovers, but then you add into the fact that the grumpy dude is also like a trained killer, but doesn't want to be a trained killer anymore, and then the girl is a bubbly like personality, but then also is like a little crazy and does also kill people.
Sort of, yeah. So the history between them two and why they hate each other is she ended up killing somebody on Halloween and calls her stepdad and is like, hey, I need like a cleanup crew. So he calls in Lachlan's group, and Lachlan actually is the one that comes to tidy things up, and they just have a very negative first reaction and interaction with each other. So I can't
imagine why.
She ends up not liking him for reasons, and her dad ends up cutting the contract with his company. So because of that, he was a huge client. He is basically like in debt to his contract killer, so he can't get out because of his mistake.
So he can't get out because she had a bad impression of him, and then daddy cut them off.
Correct. Well, he locked her in a trunk, and she had some issues with small dark spaces, so he didn't know, but he was also being a bit of an ass to her. Okay. So it just wasn't a good interaction overall between the two of them, everything considering. And so when they do meet up, they have like this instant chemistry, but then when they find out that they had this history with each other, they're like, oh, I hate you. So he hates her because he's stuck there kind of because like in his job that he doesn't want to be in anymore because of her, and she hates him because of the things he did that night. So
all right, so how do they actually go then from what we established why they're enemies, then they end up having to get together because the family wants to clear the debt and the parents want her to settle down or be out of the picture or whatever. How do they actually end up working together?
So like I said, Sloane is her best friend. She's like a sister to her, and her parents think that her husband is the one that is targeting their like business. So they're thinking of like killing him to just get him out of their hair.
So they want him to marry her, so they kind of have eyes on him.
No, the parents don't want it. It's great aunt or something that wants her to marry him because her parents really respect marriage. So they're like, if he's family, they won't go after his family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it started, and he, like, they both fully know what they're getting into, that they're kind of doing this to save his brother and her choice sister, like sister by choice. And it's supposed to only last until they figure out the mystery of who's actually targeting her parents' company. And
spoiler alert, it is...
oh my God, who was it?
Not important. Okay. I guess it served its plot purpose and that was good enough.
I don't even... oh, it was this... oh, I remember now. So the male main character from the first book, what was his name? So Sloane's husband.
Make me go back to the...
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just, I work. Rowan.
So Rowan had killed this guy's brother, and he is like basically after them for revenge. And so he comes up with this convoluted plot to go after Lark's family.
So it's just some random collateral damage from killing a different serial killer.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I was going to say, what's the likelihood that both brothers are serial killers? But obviously that seems to be a common thread in these books.
And the other brother's a doctor. So he's like completely went a different way.
Is that the next book in the series?
Yeah.
Is he also a serial killer?
No, he's not. He's a doctor.
Yeah, he could be two things.
From what I know, he's just a doctor.
Okay, so then is he gonna have like a patient that he falls in love
with?
His
love interest is this girl from the circus who got introduced in the first book. Her Rose, I think, is her name. And why can I remember the random side character's name?
You remember the clown lady from the first book?
Yep. And not the main characters of the first book. I'm awful with names. That's one thing that you need to know about me, is I'm horrible with names. I think even in the first episode when we were talking about the Black Witch Chronicles, I couldn't remember the main girl's name. That's just true. Read it.
That is true.
I kept being like, is it Eleanor? Is it Ella something? It's Ellerin.
Ellerin, yeah. I don't even know if that's right. I just
repeated it. It's Ellerin.
Okay. But I guess so just, you did rate this one a lot lower. You gave this 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I thought the beginning was quite messy. Like I said, I wasn't anticipating her to be a killer, and I wasn't expecting her family to have this darker background. So the fact that they had to get married to kind of save Sloane and her husband just felt kind of forced. Like, it just didn't flow very easily.
Yeah. I guess you didn't feel like it was telegraphed. Like, you had built a certain expectation of this character in the first book, and then the second book, it was incongruent.
No, well, that may be a little bit of it. But the way that it went about it was like, you have to get married because your parents respect marriage. It's like, what? Like, yeah, it just felt very loose thread. Like, we're going to do this because plot.
Right. So it's kind of like, yeah.
And it did pick up better in the end. Like, as we got into the story, it just felt like the beginning, maybe with some editing or just some different choices, they could have come to the same conclusion, right? Like, instead of it coming from the parents, it could have come from the from Lachlan, right? Yeah, like, saying like, listen, right, like, I need to make things right with your family. What can I do? And then they could have been like, do you know what, if we got married and it was a fake marriage kind of thing, maybe they'd be willing to take you back. Like, I feel like that would have been better instead of the other way where it was like, oh, I have, like, it coming from Lark. If it came from Lachlan instead, I feel like that would have made a little bit more sense.
Yeah. I guess because enemies to lovers also does end up happening a lot to be paired with contractual marriage, at least in like the anime, manga, light novel world. It's been done like to the ground, and so there's no excuse for not doing it right. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many precedents for, like, you can make this interesting. Like, so many people make it work, and it's funny and good. And this is just kind of like, okay.
I don't think it was done wrong. I just don't think it was done in a way that I found made total sense. So I was struggling. Like I felt like I was stumbling along listening to the book. And then when they got married and more into their relationship, it got a little bit better. But that beginning just felt like a bit of a stumble.
Okay. So we've got the shadow. We've got like the stumble at the start of the book. What's the guiding light of this book? What's the thing that make you were like, oh, but I really liked this?
I think just their relationship in the end. They do really fall for each other, and she ends up being put in a situation where he kind of drops everything to save her and rescues her from a very bad situation. And it actually kind of ends with him kind of putting her first and getting in a bit of trouble with her, the doctor brother, like Lachlan getting in trouble with his brother a bit. So
and then that ties into the next book
and
to
it
come
does
out.
it does. So there is it was a good book. I still really liked the first one. I think I like the first one a little bit better, but that's like you said, I'm really into true crime. I'm really into like the whole Hannibal kind of crime thing, so that plot just really hooked me in. And the second one, I too am not too big on the whole contract marriage enemies thing. It's like you said, it's been done a lot, and it's not my favorite trope out of all of them. There's some tropes that I will read to the ground and others that I have to be in a mood for, and this one was a little bit less so, but I still really enjoyed it.
Nice. So you think you're going to read Ruinous Love number 3 when it comes out?
I definitely will. When it comes out, I actually think if I haven't yet, I will definitely pre-order the audiobook and listen to that when it comes out. I think it comes out next year.
Well, listener, you can look forward to Ruinous Love number 3 next year, but sounds like at the very least, check out book number 1 if true crime is your vibe and you're okay with some trigger warning. I would always recommend with these types of books, read the warning labels first,
Yes, definitely. And, I do want to say that I've read a lot of trigger warnings, and sometimes I've gotten into a book, really liked it, but then it just got a little too much for me, and it's okay to drop a book. You don't have to finish a book if it makes you uncomfortable. Or any case, I find it really hard to drop a book once I've gotten into it. I feel like I have to finish it. And usually I'm now of the opinion that, there's so many books out there in the world, so many. So if you are reading something and it's just not jiving with you for any reason, don't feel like you have to finish it. Or if it was somebody else's favorite book, don't feel like you have to read through something that you don't like just because somebody else likes it. Just it's up to everybody to read what they like and to feel how they feel about what they read.
Do as we say, not as we do. I've seen Jess struggle through many books that she's miserable halfway through and force herself to read another quarter of the book, even though she should have stopped. But hey, you know what? Always good to give these books a fair shot. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Hubris. And Jess, once again, give us that gosh darn fantastic ending that you do every time without fail.
I really don't know why you encourage me to do this. This is kind of stupid.